This year I decided to try to grow Cushaw squash, also known as Illinois squash. I don't think it's going to be very successful. One plant flowered earlier in the year, and then pretty much nothing since then. At one point, the hills washed away a little bit and exposed the roots, so the plants went kind of yellow, and now we've got vine borers in many of the plants. So I'm going to stab around a little bit, see if I can take care of these vine borers, but I don't really think we're going to get any fruit this year. At this point, it's just, out of principle, because they're taking my plants from me. So if you notice that your plant has some symptoms like leaves dying off, or yellowing, you can look at the plant, and one thing that makes it definitely a vine borer is a kind of sawdust material. See, they really got this one, so this isn't likely to last. This section of the plant anyway, it's just getting eaten by various bugs and slugs and snails at this point. Alright, so that yellow substance right there, it's kind of grainy, kind of lumpy. That is the sign that you've got vine borers in your stem. And actually, as I was looking for this, you can see all of the, here he is, he's right there, that little black spot. All of these lines, cracks in the plant tell me that this is getting eaten from the inside out. And there's not really anything that you can do about these guys once they're in your plant, because they're in your plant. They're protected from any sprays. Really, the only thing you can do if you're going to try to save your plant is take something like a paper clip and try to get them out of there. And then if you really want, you can cover up this section of your plant with soil, which gives the plant a chance to root and recover if possible. Okay, so this is the sawdust material. I don't quite know. There's a lot of damage here. It could be more than one insect. And oh, here we go. This little globby white thing is our guy. Let's see if I can pull him out. Come on, buddy. Don't fight me on this. Oof, he's fairly big. I'm destroying him as I try to pull him out, so we're not going to get a good look at him. But this is him right here. This black face. Sometimes because they are lumpy themselves, even though they're white, they can kind of blend in. It's their camouflage. They can kind of blend in with the sawdust material that they leave behind. I'd be really surprised if he's the only one in here with all this damage. He's just not big enough to have done all of this. He'd be much, much bigger. So there's probably other guys in here, which means it's probably a waste of my time to try to save this plant. I kind of can't help myself because I was so excited by these plants this year. They're supposed to be vine borer resistant, and I think they are to some extent. The stems are so tough that I can't imagine that this is very easy for them to tunnel through, which I think is really the only reason these plants haven't been decimated already. Usually there's a lot more damage than this. Once I start finding vine borers, it's just like, that's it. Very, very soon thereafter, the game is over. See, here's some more sawdust. I just broke this leaf off, and there's more sawdust. So there's almost definitely another guy in here. So I think the next step I might have to consider is whether I just throw this pull these out and throw them on the compost pile or something, because if the vine borers, yeah, see, if the vine borers live to maturity, they will dig underground until, while they pupate, until they become adults. And then they come out the following spring and they lay their eggs again. So even if I planted my new plants at the other end of the yard, they would find them. Found myself a little shade here. So yeah, so I don't think that is going to be... I planted the cushaw squash because, I mean, they're huge, they're beautiful. They have a bit of a reputation in the area that I live in, and I thought it would be fun. Unfortunately, they are getting eaten by vine borers, and in my experience, like, once that starts, there's just not a lot you can do about it. One of the reasons that I, planted that instead of yellow squash, which I love, is because I have so much trouble, and every place I've ever planted, I've had so much trouble with vine borers. Last year I grew yellow squash, but it wasn't until the fall. I planted in, couldn't exactly say, but late summer. And I covered them with row cover until it started to bloom. And we had a great harvest until a very, very early frost. So I didn't plant them as kind of my summer crop. But I planted the cushaw because it was supposed to be vine borer resistant. But again, even though I've tried to keep them fertilized and happy and healthy, we've had some issues, and despite, the plants looking great really early in the year, they've really taken a downturn. So I don't think that's going to be a success this year. But I will show you the rest of the garden and how well that is doing, because we've got a lot of exciting things going on in there this year. So update on the squash. I am going to just pull it out of the garden. It's not really worth it anymore. It's not going to do it any good. And I want to plant yellow squash in that area later in the season. Ooh. So we need to get that out of the way so that the vine borers aren't still around. Okay, so for whatever reason, these plants are not thriving this year, whether it's vine borers or not. And it just kind of makes more sense to pull them out, get them out of the way, stop spending energy on them, get it ready for the yellow squash that'll be there in a month or two. So I'm going to do that. We're going to throw these out, even though it's really hard, and focus on the successes of this year.